dots on the screen. They're like counting chads in the Florida election. Zero is right. Well, so this is a contrasting illusion. The dots don't exist anywhere. They're not on my computer screen. They're not on that screen. They're on your retina and my retina. And then they just disappear. So sometimes when we look at the world, it isn't like that at all. So in science, we look for natural explanations for natural phenomena. And we ask the question, what's more likely? That aliens traversed the vast distances of interstellar space and landed in Farmer Bob's field in Pucker Brush, Kansas to make a crop circle that says skeptic.com as a way of promoting our webpage? Or that somebody with Photoshop made the slide for me? Well, the question sort of answers itself. It's like before we say something is out of this world, let's first make sure that it's not in this world. And once again, we can ask the what's more likely question that aliens traversed the vast distances of interstellar space and landed in Sacramento, California in order to help the governor run the country, or run the, run the now broke, bankrupt state of California, where I'm from, or that the World Weekly News just makes stuff up. Well, we have no evidence of aliens landing anywhere. We have lots of experience of tabloid newspapers and magazines just making things up. So yet another way to say this is my favorite cartoon from Sidney Harris, where, for those of you in the back, it's then a miracle occurs on the chalkboard amongst the mathematical equations, and the other scientist says, I think you need to be more explicit here in step 2. Indeed, it's not that miracles aren't allowed in science, because there's no dictator allowing or disallowing things in science. It's that there's nothing to do with a miracle. That is, by definition, it's a one-off event. That is a violation of natural law, and so since we study natural law and look for natural explanations for natural phenomenon, by definition you've written yourself out of doing science. You're just not doing science anymore if you're looking for supernatural or paranormal explanations. In fact, I'd say there's no such thing as the supernatural or the paranormal. Those are just words, linguistic placeholders for things we can't explain yet. They don't exist at all. It's a little bit like when cosmologists talk about dark energy and dark matter. Those are just linguistic placeholders for something we have yet to explain. Why galaxies are structured the way they are, why they move, why they are held together in clusters the way that they are. There's something else there, we don't know what it is yet. So we'll just call it dark energy or dark matter. That's not the answer, though, and they don't mean it to be an answer. It explains nothing. It's just a word, right? And that's the way it is with the paranormal and the supernatural. They're just words. So let's say, for example, it turned out that people can read each other's minds, ESP. Let's say that turned out to be true. We now have experimental evidence for this. We run and rerun and corroborated and so on. All the experiments are reading the backs of playing cards, are reading each other's minds. And let's say we discovered the cause of this. It turns out it's that it's the sort of quantum neuro effects that when you think a thought, these neurotransmitter substances go across the synapse. And these are chemicals made of atoms, and the wave function of the atom collapses in unison as cells are firing, and the spooky action at a distance that quantum physicists talk about when you spin the electrode one way and somewhere else it's affected by this instantly across vast distances. Let's say somehow that's how it works. Well, that would no longer be ESP, right? It wouldn't be paranormal, mysterious powers. It would just be, psychophysics or neuroquantum physics or something like that. It would just be a branch of science. And so that would no longer be the paranormal. But I don't believe this, by the way. I'm just saying as a thought experiment. And this is the problem with intelligent design theory. This is not my evolution intelligent design lecture, but the entire lecture, in fact, their entire enterprise can be summed up in one slide, so let's just dispense with it now. This is how the argument goes. X looks designed. X could be whatever you want. The eye, the wing, bacteria, flagellum, DNA, RNA, you pick it, that's the X. X looks designed. 2, I can't think of how X was designed naturally. 3, therefore, X was designed supernaturally. The God of the gaps. Well, this is also what we call the argument from personal incredulity. Because I can't figure it out, there can't be an explanation. Well, maybe you're just not that smart. Maybe, maybe somebody else could figure it out. Very much reminds me of the people we call the pyramidians. They think the pyramids couldn't have been built by the Egyptians. Those stupid Egyptians, how could they have built the pyramids? It must have been the aliens or the Atlanteans. The lost continent of Atlantis was somewhere over there, and they went over there and they built pyramids. Well, it's just a pile of rocks. It isn't that technically difficult to make. If you have a lot of labor, and it never rains, and you have decades and decades of a lot of work, 365 days a year, you can build a pyramid, and it's very doable. But the fact that you can't think of it is rather meaningless anyway. So I wrote a book about that, which, by the way, I should point out, is my first book with full frontal nudity on the cover. I was very proud of that. In America, you can get away with that if it's a different species. So, and this is, I think, the humor slide for that one. For the last time, stop following the other creationists. So, well, I would like to believe, I would, and I do, I believe all sorts of things, but it just depends on the evidence. So let's just take something light and fun like this. Are UFOs coming to Earth, and are humans being abducted by aliens? So what's more likely, back to the what's more likely question, that UFOs represent spacecraft from other worlds, traversing the vast distances of interstellar space to land in, so on. Or do they represent anomalies from this world? Here's a UFO shot from my house in Pasadena. That's sort of Altadena. Pasadena's in the backdrop there. Here is one from Lansing, Michigan, actually. This one was shot recently, and here's another picture of it. So these are interesting UFO sightings. Of course, all it means is it's an unidentified flying object. But UFO does not automatically extrapolate into ETI, extraterrestrial intelligence. In the case of mine, if mine looks like a Buick hubcap, that's because that's what it was. This was a screenshot from a television show we shot for Fox Family Channel called Exploring the Unknown. You can see this one on YouTube, and if you just type my name in there, you'll find it. Faking UFOs, I think it's called. And this picture was taken by my daughter when she was 8 with a little Instamatic camera. And I'm just off to the side, her and her friends, saying, "You girls ready? Yes. Cameras ready? Yes." Hubcap frisbee toss, into the screen it goes, click, 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 you're done. Submit it to the official local UFO experts, and they won't see any strings or any fake Photoshop. You don't need to do any of that. It's pretty simple. Now, that's not to say that this isn't the real thing, but I'll let you critical thinkers give that some thought, additional thought. Anyway, so I believe the people that saw the UFO are actually here tonight. So maybe in the Q&A we'll invite them to say something.